Maybe you can talk a little bit about how vitamin C works and why it can neutralize the toxins and why it can be so helpful for COVID situations or spike protein.
That comes back to the underlying cause of all disease. Now, that sounds grandiose, but it's not. The underlying cause of all disease is, we call it oxidative stress, which is okay. And then we say oxidative stress causes disease. That part's not technically true. What's technically true is the oxidative stress is the disease. So in any given sick cell involved in a different condition, involved in a different toxin, you have a certain array of proteins, sugars, enzymes that are oxidized, electron depleted, and no longer function well or function at all. And the degree and distribution to which those different biomolecules are oxidized, their concentrations, how long they've been oxidized, the chronicity, that determines the disease. That determines, so you don't have, for example, an Alzheimer's cell that has some ill-defined Alzheimer's disease in addition to a unique array of oxidation. Same thing with fibromyalgia, same thing with any disease. So, because of this, treating disease can get very complicated, as you well know. But defining it is easy, and the way you treat any disease involves two parts. Number one is repair the old oxidative damage, and number two is prevent the new oxidative damage. The degree to which you can accomplish that is the degree to which the patient feels better. And sometimes, if you're really vigorous and you're tracking different things closely, you can resolve some of these chronic degenerative diseases that are considered to be unresolvable, incurable, much less make them feel better. So vitamin C, as an antioxidant, is able to repair biomolecules that have been oxidized. And as long as more new molecules are not oxidized on a daily basis than the ones that are being repaired, you can actually start to see progress in resolving what are considered to be chronic degenerative diseases that you can't touch. A main source of this, let me get back to a little favorite point of mine, is the hydrogen peroxide nebulization. When I wrote the book, Rapid Virus Recovery, I entitled it that because it was the start of the pandemic and I wanted something out there that people could use, but it could just as easily have been called rapid gut recovery. What happens when you nebulize peroxide is you knock out the chronic pathogen colonization covered by biofilms in your nose and throat, which everybody has indefinitely for years on end. If they had a cold, if they had a flu, if they had a COVID, if they had anything that, and did not take a specific biofilm stripping intervention like peroxide, but not exclusive to peroxide. So this then stays there forever. And what do? You swallow it. You swallow pathogens, you swallow exotoxins, endotoxins, you swallow pro-oxidant metabolic byproducts of these pathogens, viruses, fungi, bacteria, you name it. And to make it worse, when those pathogens finally die and rupture, they release a huge amount of free iron, because that's what the pathogens thrive on, is free iron in their little storage sites of iron. So when all of that gets into your gut on a, as the young people like to say, 24/7 basis, you have no way at all of maintaining a healthy gut. And I'm sure you realize that as they talk about it a lot these days, all the probiotics and this, that, and the other, is they realize, alternative or integrative docs realize that a screwed up microbiome and a leaky gut contribute enormously negatively to every syndrome you have in your body. So a primary way of making everything better is to normalize the gut. Many people do with the peroxide nebulization. The leaky gut cells, the epithelial cells, they have stem cells there that regenerate new cells every 3 to 5 days. So literally, if you don't poison your gut for a week, you've got a brand new gut. So leaky gut is not a chronic disease. It's the chronic infliction of an acute disease. And when you stop that new oxidation, magic happens. I have a number of cases. One is my good friend, Dr. Honeyhacky, and this other lady that wrote me a letter. Incredible. It said, Dr. Levy, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Her whole family for years had been bothered with black mold fungus. A number of the children were hospitalized in the intensive care unit, intubated. They had to move out of the house. They took all the supplements. They took all the probiotics. They took off everything. Nothing helped. And the lady said after the first hydrogen peroxide nebulization, it was like magic. I can't tell you how well everybody feels now. That's one case. Another case, as I'm sure you're familiar, Crohn's disease. That's a you never get over it type disease. You're just somehow doomed to have this unique gut disease, which you don't know why you got it or what reason you got it. Same thing. The mother writes the letter. 16-year-old son who's been bedridden for years on all the different meds they use for Crohn's disease. I don't even know half of them. And losing weight, losing the will to live. He starts on the peroxide nebulization, and not as rapidly. It took him about 4 months. Then one day, like him, the light switch went on. He felt great, stopped all his medicines, started gaining weight, eating, went to school again on all the sports teams, and never had another symptom of Crohn's disease in his life. And I'm telling you, that's because this is what keeps all of those syndromes going. And even though that's a major sidetrack from, let's say, COVID, it's all wrapped up together. And this is why, and it might not have made sense if I'd have said this at the outset, but I think it will now, is peroxide nebulization to one degree or another. The person needs to figure out how frequent, how often, once a day, once a week, once a month, whatever, should always be part of every treatment protocol for any condition you have.
For any condition.
Right. We just said an abnormal gut makes every condition worse, right?
Okay.
And it does nothing but good. I mean, in a nutshell, peroxide is nature's gift to the body. It's what your body uses to kill pathogens. When it kills the pathogen, it leaves behind water and oxygen, which is the perfect setting for healing damaged tissue. Every breath you take, roughly 5% of the oxygen gets incorporated into new peroxide in the body. It's a highly stable, not unstable molecule. They tell you it's a reactive oxygen species only under certain micro environments of acid or infection does the peroxide turn on and become a pro-oxidant agent. And common, okay, you have H2O, water, O2, oxygen, you have peroxide, H2O2. It is literally one of the most common molecules inside your body, which drives me crazy when just lunatics that just don't want to understand, appreciate anything outside of their medicine textbooks and their chemotherapies and their antibiotics is that it's a natural substance. And the cells in your respiratory tract lining the epithelium of the airways naturally secrete peroxide into the airspace. So it's the body's natural way to deal with every pathogen that you inhale with every breath, which you do, of course, just at a very low concentration. So all you're doing is augmenting the body's natural defense. And 100% safe unless you go crazy. I mean, if you go above 3% and you do 12% or 36%, you could damage yourself, you could kill yourself. But you can kill yourself with anything. In the prescribed dose, the hydrogen peroxide nebulization is 100% safe. Maybe a little irritation if you use too high a concentration, you dilute it, you go lower. I'm
Yeah.
sure you're aware of this, but let's say this for whoever's watching the podcast. Contrast that with all prescription medications, because right now the statistic is, at least in the United States, 100,000 people a year die from prescription medicines taken the way they were prescribed, not abused, not taken inappropriately, but the doctor said take 3 times a day and now you're dead. Okay. That's never going to happen when you're augmenting a natural defense in your body.